The beginning of the Today Show is Al Roker in an utterly unpronounceable part of Scotland. Iceland, rather. He should have been in Scotland. Nobody can get to Scotland anymore. He's in Iceland, and they show the name of the volcano. It's unpronounceable by anybody anywhere, including Iceland, I'm sure. And all of the names, it's... I don't even know what it is.
Can I spell the glacier name for you?
Spell the glacier.
Capital EYJAFJALLAJOKULL.
That sounds like the confirmation code on Amtrak. It's not pronounceable. You want to take a shot at it?
Yijafjalojokul?
Yeah, so what is that?
It's got to be a nickname. We got to come up with a nickname
Otzi.
for this place.
Otzi is the nickname.
It's always good.
Yeah, that's good.
No, not that.
So I watched this, and Al Roker's there. He's in Iceland. He says he's on a main road in Iceland. A main road, which he says is washed out by the melting of the glacier because of the spewing of the hot lava from the volcano. And the big story everywhere is how European air travel is completely dislodged. There's hardly any planes going anywhere. Certainly not transatlantic planes. Maybe inter-European planes. And it's understandable why, because the schmutz is in the air and it'll ruin the engine, and then you're going to crash. So it makes all the sense in the world. And I'm sure when Mount St. Helens blew up, that Pacific Northwest air travel was stopped for a while. But this is on a grander scale. And that seems to be the story. And I say to my dentist, I said, doesn't this seem like the end of the world? Doesn't this seem like the end of the world? And he looks at me like, I haven't given this guy Novocaine. I haven't given him gas. What is he talking about? And I said, some people might think that the end of the world would come from without, that a giant planet would get loose, or an asteroid, or the other people that live out there.
50-50.
And come and knock us off our orbit, spinning into the sun wildly, and we're all going to die. But if you look at what's happened just in the last couple of months with these earthquakes that are beyond, not only are many of them in places that are unexpected, but even the ones that are in expected places are at scales beyond what they have ever been. And the weather, for example, the winter that happened here, and the sort of wild, erratic patterns of weather. And now
they're calling for a crazy hurricane season this year.
And
too.
Volcanoes that have been dormant for thousands of years in Iceland, of all places. It can't be hot in Iceland, but it seems like the Earth is just sort of getting ready to go. Sort of like Maggie.
Got a little case of indigestion.
Sort of getting ready to let go. Now, I'm always going to be accused of being negative and sort of doom-like and all that, and I accept that. I accept that that's who I am. But I don't think Super G is like that. I don't think Jeannie is like that. Nigel, not so much, because he's in court all the time, and it might be that way. But, Jean, what do you think?
I have a very strong streak of pessimism from this weather. Now, the one thing I keep thinking, okay, we haven't had...
Although it was nice last week, wasn't it? It was nice.
It
was really
today.
nice.
We haven't had a big water event like a tidal wave or tsunami.
40 days and nights.
But we're going to the beach,
So there could
next
be a
week,
tsunami.
so we got to think about that.
So aren't you... Am I the only one terrified by what's going on inside the Earth? But isn't that how the world was formed to begin with, that inside the Earth... continents rose out of water.
Stars blow up all the time. Right?
The one blew up the other day in Iowa.
I'm of the mindset that all of these tsunamis and volcanic eruptions and even these big earthquakes are but tremors. They're just warnings for the big event. And the first I
When's
heard,
the big event coming? Are you with the Mayans?
I don't want anyone to think you're a Johnny-come-lately. What? The day after Christmas, 2004, happened to be a beautiful day, probably close to a 60-degree day. And I remember because you invited me to come play golf with you at Columbia Country Club.
Right.
And when we got there, we were watching on the news of the tsunami, the Indian Ocean tsunami, which was the first, not the first, but, of the last 6-8 years, whatever, a real harbinger. And I remember standing there with you and you saying to me, clearly the end of the world has begun.
That's right.
So this is not like you've just gotten on board with this.
No.
You have 6 years of history behind this.
So the end of the world could happen. I mean, if you want to believe that 7 days and 7 nights, well, why not? Why wouldn't it be?
Escalating.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's getting crazier out there. But again, when I was in Pinehurst, boy, the weather was good. So I felt pretty good at that point.
Tough to say.
But now also, remember Chuck Bell? Chuck Bell, who was giddy over the fact that we were getting record snowfalls, and later, by the way, apologized for that. I heard Chuck Bell just yesterday giddy over the fact that it's so much hotter so far in 2010 than it should be. That from January 1st to April 14th, there was like 8 or 9 degrees. So now we're into Chuck Bell, so excited about global warming, so excited about the fires that will engulf us all, that hell will come to pass. So excited about this because he's a meteorological, he's a geek.
Yeah.
Guy's a geek, and he knows that it's hotter than it ought to be. So I don't know.
A gleek?
No, he's not a gleek. I am a gleek. He's a geek.
Maybe a gleek.
So what do we think?
It's not going to end well. I mean, that's not a news flash for anybody.
If it just happens,
I don't care if it doesn't end well. I just don't want it to end tomorrow.
It's not going to end tomorrow.
No, you do want it to end tomorrow. I mean, you don't want...
Why? I've already paid my rents. I don't want it to end.
You don't want, years of drought and, devastation and locusts and plagues.
I don't want locusts.
No. Yeah, you don't
I don't want that, but
You
I've
don't
saved
want
up some
road
money.
warrior stuff.
Vermin.
No, I certainly don't want Mad Max.
Slaying of the firstborn.
So I think it's
We'll
better
go through that.
if the whole thing just kind of blows
Nigel,
up quickly.
How was your court date yesterday, by the way?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was quite interesting. I learned a couple of things. One, they really frown on smoking in the courtroom.
Do they really?
Right. And when they came to me and they said, all right, so, what happened? And I said, well, that pig over there, he pulled me over. And again, the judge got quite upset with that.
You shouldn't do that.
No, but they did not lock me up. They actually were quite kind to me. I got a big chuckle out of the crowd as I left.
That's very good. To tell some jokes?
Well, yeah, I said, thank you very much. And not that I haven't enjoyed my time with you people, but I sincerely hope I never see any of you again.
But do you think the end of the world is at hand?
Oh, absolutely. Without question. Actually, it's going to be December 20th, I think, or 21st, 2012.
This is the Mayan calendar or the John Cusack calendar? 'Cause wasn't he in that movie?
Yes, it's right. It's exactly right. Yeah, it's the Mayans had this long count calendar, something like that.
No, but didn't we have the Nostradamus prediction in the 2000s?
He pinned it on some dude from the Middle East. Yeah. That never happened.
And haven't we some of these come and gone?
All the planets line up and they say something really bad is going to happen that day.
2012?
Yeah, it is either going to end completely or it'll stop and then
2012. So it would be crazy for me to join yet another country club.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
if that's going to happen.
Yeah, but
by the same token, what's the point of hanging on to the money?
Yeah.
I mean, you make
I was going to give it to the kids anyway. On what? On more country clubs, I guess. I don't even go anywhere. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I go to bed so early. I'm tired.
Different time zone.
So tired. But when I saw Al out there, and then they show these pictures of the giant plumes of ash.
It's incredible.
And then they show under the ground, it's a furnace under the ground, and the scientists say, here, this is a very scary thing. We have no idea when this is going to end. It could end today, or it could never end.
Can't they harness that? Can't they just stick a smokestack in the mouth of that volcano and get us off foreign oil already?
Grill. Can't they do something
some energy
useful?
down in there, I'm thinking.
Something useful.
Yeah,
and
maybe sear some Arctic char on there or something.
A yak.
Iceland, of all places. Yeah. Iceland.
Nothing grows there. It's barren.
Ice seems to grow there.
Right.
And now heat. It's a terrible combination.
It's not like Greenland. Greenland's a beautiful country.
They grow green.
Yeah, it's grassy.
One of the things they say about these plumes of ash is it's not just ash. There's glass in there.
How did that happen?
There's glass in there. So, I just bought a new door. If I knew there was glass in there, I could have gone with a net.
It's like a big butterfly net?
That's right. I could have gotten some glass.
Yeah. Well,
Jeannie with her silent laugh again. I just think that you know what?
Can
we get some emails on when the world's going to end?
Could some of our smart emailers tell us how glass gets
glass
in that plume?
It's
from the glacier.
No, glacier is ice. Glass is glass.
But
I always thought it was like dirt and sand.
But if you mix ice with some giant thing that blows up, don't you get glass?
One of these, one of these PhDs who listens, she will explain this.
Leonard Williams in New Orleans or Dr. Mike Gessner?
I thought sand and dirt, like
glass?
diamond is a coal. I thought,
so it's sort of
dirt
like
and
being
earth was glass.
forged down there. And
the heat.
Sort of like
an
oyster becomes a pearl?
Very similar, yes.
Isn't it the same thing?
Just like snow melting from the bottom
I
up.
would say that the lesson in this is if you apply pressure to almost anything, some fabulous gem is created.
Something that you can see through.
Yes.
Either
and
glass
that sponsors our
or
mailbag.
diamond. So we'll be back. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
This is the Tony Kornheiser Show.
The Tony Kornheiser Show.
I just want to read a couple of emails before we get to this. One from Steve in Wichita, Kansas. Tony, I'm guessing that the volcano eruption did not surprise Wilbon. Of course not. Nothing does. Have you asked him when the world will end? And from Josh Cromwell in Moselle, Mississippi. Your own washed-up status, catastrophic weather, the end of the world. It's nice to see that you're in a pleasant, cheerful mood for a change. From Doug Kime in D.C., Dear Mr. Tony, do you not see the contradiction of praising the capitals for building for the long term while at the same time proclaiming the end of the world? Sean Griffith in Louisville, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, the end of the world being nigh. TGIF to you too, Satchmo. Mike Pavlik, Lower Borough, Pennsylvania. I was convinced the end of the world was Wednesday night when you actually stayed up until 10:30 to watch Glee. Anthony Verna in Jersey City. The world will end when the Redskins decide to build through the draft. Robin Fairfax, Mr. Tony, clearly it was Gilbert's birthday bash that set the end of the world in motion. No event could be bigger than that, so just end it. John Molino in Alexandria, not being much of a science guy, but I seem to recall from the Science for Dummies course I took in college that ice, when heated, becomes water, and when mixed with dirt, becomes mud. Ice becoming glass, not so much. If you're out on your bike tonight, everybody, as always, do wear white.